Hi there, and welcome to this session where we will discuss the Our World project run by the Scottish European Educational Trust, or SEET. We're going to be discussing what you can expect from the Our World project and help you get the ball rolling with your film ideas as well. There'll be some activities for you to carry out in your groups as we go through the PowerPoint. So I would recommend pausing the video whilst you complete these tasks, just to make sure everyone's got enough time to get everything done. So the plan for today then, we will start by discussing what SEET actually is and what the Our World project is. We'll introduce the Sustainable Development Goals to you all, which is your theme for making your films this year. Before thinking about forming your idea, developing your characters, setting and genre, and then actually thinking about creating the storyboards as well at the end.
The Scottish European Educational Trust, or SEET, is a non-political charity committed to promoting international education, skills development and language learning amongst young people in Scotland. We're a small team, but SEET is proud to work with around 3,000 primary and secondary school pupils across Scotland each year to build the skills, knowledge and confidence to look outward and to engage with other cultures. Euroquiz is an annual project open to all primary 6 pupils across Scotland, which sees teams of 4 working together to broaden their knowledge of Europe and the wider world. Subjects covered include languages, history, geography, culture and European affairs. Heats take place in local authorities, with the winning teams from all areas progressing to the national Euroquiz final, held in the debating chamber of the Scottish Parliament. Our World is a creative filmmaking project for S3 to S6 pupils. Teams of 4 are asked to create ideas for a film based on set themes relating to global citizenship and including at least one language other than English. Pupils send their ideas to us in storyboard form, and selected teams attend an all-day filmmaking workshop where they bring their ideas to life with the help of a professional filmmaker. Participants are then invited to attend a premiere and awards ceremony to showcase their work and celebrate their achievements. SEET projects are open to all pupils across Scotland, it's free to take part, and we've developed ways to offer our projects in an online format. Please get in touch if you'd like to learn more, we'd love to hear from you.
So, Our World is a language learning and filmmaking project. We ask you in small groups of up to 4 to create a storyboard for a short film which has another language other than English in it. Which language you use and how much that language actually features in your film is completely up to you and your team. Your films should be based on the Sustainable Development Goals, or the SDGs, which we'll talk about a bit more in just a moment. Those films which we feel respond best to the theme are invited to an all-day filmmaking workshop where you can turn your films into the real thing with the help of professional filmmakers there to help you. Once you've created all your films, we come together and we attend a premiere and awards ceremony where we showcase your films to your friends and family, and we give out prizes in different categories as well for the films that we think are best in those categories. It's always a great day and I think you'll really, really enjoy yourselves. So I'll just give you a really quick run through of the key dates of this year's project. So the first key date is Wednesday, the 8th of December, which is when we'd like all your storyboards to be sent to us by. We will then review them all before welcoming all successful applicants to one of our filmmaking workshops in February and March. Finally, the premiere and awards ceremony happens in late April. So let's get started then. Here's a brief video about what the Sustainable Development Goals actually are.
Did you know that the UN Sustainable Development Goals are a universal call to action that unites 193 countries around the world? If these global goals are fulfilled by 2030, life on Earth will be better for everyone. So, what are these goals? Eliminate poverty in all its forms. No hunger. Everyone should have safe, nutritious, and sufficient food. Everyone has equal access to healthcare, thus ensuring our well-being and a healthy life. Equal access to a quality education. Ensure gender equality where women and girls have the same opportunities as men and boys. By achieving these goals, each member of our society will be equal, safe, and happy. UN global goals also include access to safe drinking water and sanitation, access to clean energy that is safe for people and the environment, sustainable and stable economic growth. Everyone has a decent job, strong infrastructure, and the support of innovations. Lower inequality within and among countries. Cities and settlements be developed without damaging the environment and people. Achieving these goals will result in the well-being of people and our planet. We can further take care of our environment with the following goals: sustainable and safe production and consumption of products. Take urgent measures to reduce climate change and its impact. Ensure the sustainable use and protection of ocean and sea resources. Restore and protect Earth's ecosystems. By achieving these goals, we will form a society where strong institutions ensure peace and justice. It is important for everyone to be involved and to build partnerships for achieving sustainable development goals. You are part of this process. Demand the implementation of these goals. Take the lead and share information with your friends.
So, as the video just discussed, the Sustainable Development Goals, or the SDGs, are a global call to action. They are 17 different goals which aim to achieve a better and more sustainable future for everyone. So in 2017, the UN gave sort of some specific targets to aim towards and sort of ways of measuring the goals to make sure that countries were achieving them by the target year of 2030. But you can see from the sort of individual titles of the 17 goals that they're quite general, and they include things like no poverty, gender equality, climate action, and life below water. So your interpretation of the goals can be quite open and general too. And we really want to see you be as creative as possible with this. So please don't feel limited in what you can make your film about. As long as it's related to one of these 17 goals in some way, that's all we ask. So the first step then is to form your groups if you have not done that already. So please do that now and find your groups of no bigger than 4 people. Any more than that and it can get a bit too complicated. I'd recommend forming a group with people that you know that you can work well with. And then once you've found your group of 4, your teacher will hand you the list of the 17 different SDGs. I want you to look at each SDG very, very carefully in your team and write down the 3 that catch your eye straight away. Then once you've got your 3 each, I would like you to narrow it down even further to just 1 or 2 SDGs that all of your teammates felt quite drawn to. It may be easier to just pick 1, but the choice is completely yours. So please do that now. I always find it quite useful to see some examples of past Our World participants so you can see what we expect from you. So when you're viewing these examples, though, I'd like you to write down which SDG you think that this storyboard is based off, what makes you think that, and then one thing that you think is good about the storyboard and one thing which you think could be improved on for each one, please. So this is example 1. Example 2. Example 3, and this is the first part. There's 4 parts to example 3.
This is a tutorial from the Scottish European Educational Trust as part of the Our World project. The aim of this video is to break down storytelling techniques for you to use in your own filmmaking.
Hello, I'm Alistair Satchell, and I'm a film and theatre maker based on the island of Mull. Story. Story. We're all native storytellers. We understand how story works so clearly. We constantly make up stories in our heads as part of our daily lives. We see something and think, well, if that's happened, this is going to happen. We've also seen thousands and thousands of hours of TV and film. We're often left alone in front of the TV as we people. Story is the lifeblood of film and TV. All of the hours of TV we've watched have worked their way into our bones, so we understand story in a most profound way. We know when a story feels right and when it feels wrong. So what is story? Put simply, story is an account of events. For stories to be interesting, something has to actually happen, whether in what you're hearing or seeing or even in your imagination. Here's one of the best and shortest stories I've ever seen. It's called The Scarlatti Tilt by Richard Brautigan.
It's hard to live in a studio apartment in San Jose with a man who's learning to play the violin. That's what she told the police when she handed them the empty revolver.
It's such a simple story, but there's so much in there. There's character and action and so much more that we see in our heads without it being there on the page. Engaging the imagination is one of the key things you've got to do with story, to bring it to life. For stories to be interesting, they have to have shape. They have to appear to be proceeding in a straight line and then take a series of twists and turns. If they were graphs, dull stories would just be a flat line at the bottom of the graph. I need to have this so I can do that. Certainly. Here you go. Thanks. Dull. Game over. Whereas if character A says, I need this to do that, and character B says, you can't have it because I need it to do this. But I need it. I need it more. Fight! Suddenly, we have drama and conflict. Drama and conflict is the root of all interesting stories. You can see from this analysis that character starts to emerge very early on into a story. Why does character A need something? Who are they? What do they need the thing to do? Who is character B? And why on earth do they need the thing? You can see how by putting two characters together, we get into choppy waters and the drama starts to take shape. Here's a question for you. What's more interesting? A character who does what they say they will, or a character who says they'll do something and then does the complete opposite? The more complex a character is, the more real and interesting it will seem, and the more it will connect with an audience. But for them to really connect, we have to understand their motivation. What is it that makes them say one thing, yet do another? A very interesting thing to think about is situation. What is the situation that you place your characters into? Is it a situation that's native to the character? For instance, are we in a school and we see school children in a classroom? Or are we in an undertaker's and we see a clown? The situation you set your story in can really help your storytelling. One exercise to generate a story is to take a situation and think of the characters who would logically be there. Name them. Flesh out their lives a little bit. Figure out what they want to be happy or succeed in a task, and then find ways for them not to get that. Put obstacles native to their situation in their way. If those obstacles come from other characters and the choices that those characters make to meet their own needs, you're into very interesting dramatic territory. So how does story start? One of the key things to think about is the action that kicks everything off. The initiating incident. Something that means the rest of the story is going to happen as a response to this action, whether it's by the character's actions or by the inevitable nature of their situation. This is what gives your story body, the actions that lead from one thing into the next. It's vital to say that for your story to work, you should try to have fun with it. Stories can work in very mathematical ways, This happens, so that happens. But if you can have fun with it, this happens, so that happens, you'll make more of a connection with your audience. It's about putting more of yourself into it, having fun. For your story to have really exciting structure, it needs to have a climax, the highest point of the drama, where everything is at stake. For instance, when Thanos clicks his fingers. The climax then inevitably leads to the ending. So how should stories end? Well, unless you're wanting to make a series of sequels, your story should conclude in a satisfying way. A simple idea would be if character A has something that character B needs at the end of the story, they either need to find a compromise so that they can both use it, or another solution is that one of them has it while the other doesn't. Another option would be that circumstances related to their situation or the needs of another character mean that they can't access it at all. Endings are actually just the beginning. Once you've got a story that you like and that you're happy with, you can play about with the structure of your storytelling. How would it be if you were to start your film just before the last actions that conclude it, and then spin us back in time to the start of the story? Would that make the story even more interesting for the viewer? What if your story was based around a countdown? Playing around with story structure leads to some really interesting storytelling and can be a lot of fun. Language and story are very close companions. You can create all sorts of dramatic situations by introducing another language into them. If person A needs something desperately, but person B, who has the thing, whether information or an object, doesn't speak their language, suddenly you've got great dramatic potential. There's conflict because they can't understand each other, but the story forces them to try and find a way to understand each other so they can get what they need and bring a conclusion to the story. One of the key things to make this approach to storytelling really clear is to choose target words and phrases and communicate them to the audience. For instance, Où sont les toilettes? Où sont les toilettes? Où sont les toilettes? The meaning of this can be made very clear by modifying the intensity of the action, as can be ¿Dónde están los baños? But if you see a character saying Ich habe meine Hose gekackt, I think the meaning is quite clear. That's a thing. If you can use language in a way that is sincere but funny, your audience will remember the phrases with greater ease. This way, demystifying foreign languages and making them more accessible. A vital thing to do with film is to make sure that you show rather than tell. Allow us to see things happening. This way you can be really precise with your use of language, both English and foreign languages.
There you go. That's a brief introduction to storytelling in film. It's over to you now. Allez, c'est parti.
So now you've decided on which SDG or SDGs that you are going to make a film about. We need to start thinking about character and setting. So who is the protagonist or the main character in your story? Are they a hero or are they a villain? Where will your story actually take place? Which other language or languages will your film include, and how? So, where in the film are you going to fit it in? You can use languages that you learn at school or ones that you speak at home, or both. Either is absolutely fine. So generally, stories follow quite a sort of similar structure. So you start at the start, you have your characters, your setting, and your genre that are established. So it's where you get your first glimpses into who's the main character, where is it set, and what kind of film is it. So how does your story start? Then afterwards, you start thinking about the middle of your story. And the middle is often where some sort of problem is encountered. So what happens in the middle of your story? Generally, the end of a story is where the problem that the character has encountered in the middle of the story is the problem is solved, and some sort of balance or equilibrium is resolved. So, how does your story end? So, an important aspect to think about when you're creating your story and your storyboard is genre. So, genre just means what type. So, what type of film are you going to create? So, the most popular film genres are comedy, action, and adventure films. But there are many, many other film genres as well. So, obviously, there's drama, science fiction, thrillers, westerns, crime films, musicals, horrors, romantic comedies, documentaries, to name just a few. So what I want you to do is to say, what genre was the last film that you watched, and how do you know that it was that genre? So when you're establishing genre in your own film, I want you to think of this visually rather than in writing. So how will someone know what genre your film is? Now, a good way of thinking about this is if you had two screens in front of you. So one was showing a horror film and one was showing a comedy film. How would you know which one is which? Now, I'd like you to, in your groups, make a list of things of how you would know one film is a horror film and one film is a comedy film. So think about things like lighting, think about the expressions on people's faces, think about the music that might be playing in the background. I want you to consider these things when you're telling us what genre the last film you watched was. So your ending should also help indicate what genre you are creating in your film. So does your film have a sad or a happy ending? And I think the final point here is to really consider this now. So decide on your genre now so that you can drop hints of what kind of film it is as the film progresses along the way. So how do we actually put together a storyboard? Well, we have blank boxes for drawing. I'll show you a template in just a moment. We have blank boxes for drawing and a few lines for sort of scene description underneath. So you start with your opening shot in box 1 and you gradually take us through the story that your team has come up with. But there is a little bit more to it than this. We're going to watch a tutorial in just a moment from another one of our filmmakers, Tim, who's going to give you a few tips about how to create a good storyboard. Please feel free when you make your own to use more than one storyboard template. An average entry that we receive for the Our World project is about 2 to 3 of these templates. So please just use what you need. And also try and make it neat, tidy, and colorful as well. Remember, we see tons of these every year. So please, try and make yours stand out. But as I said, before we set you off working on these yourselves, let's watch. There's a couple of brief videos that we've put together from our filmmaker, Tim, about how to storyboard. So we're going to watch them now.
Hello and welcome to this Scottish European Educational Trust tutorial on storyboarding. Specifically, we'll be looking at storyboarding for filmmaking, and you will learn why we use storyboarding in film production. You will also learn what a storyboard is and is not. And as part of this learning process, you will become a good storyboard creator. And of course, storyboard involves drawing, so you will learn something about drawing. For now, let me introduce myself. My name is Tim Flood. This is me drawing a simple cartoon of myself just to prove that I do some drawing. And of course, I have produced lots of storyboards in the past. And now the big question is really, why do we use storyboarding in film production? Well, there are several reasons. Primarily, let's assume we have a script, we need to visualize that story. We also need to choose the camera shots and the movements of the camera and the movements of the actors. These can all go in the storyboard. We need to consider shot sequences. Why shot A follows shot B in order to tell the story. And we need to consider how long each shot lasts. A good storyboarder enables the story to be shown and not told through words. After all, that's what filmmaking is about. So what do we mean to visualize? In other words, how do we see? I like to use optical illusions to illustrate some of the ways in which the unconscious processes of our mind affect how we see and how we perceive. This happens in film all the time. Of course, these two lines are the same length. And incredibly, this is a still image. Use the pause button if you don't believe me. For most of us, when we want to draw a cat, we don't actually look carefully at what we're seeing. Our unconscious habits come into play, and what happens is we draw a symbol for a cat. These symbols usually consist of a round head, eyes evenly spaced apart, nose in the middle, and usually 6 whiskers. This person's represented symbols for legs, but they have looked carefully and noted that there are green eyes. Let's look at some examples of what is not a storyboard. I often see these in schools. They are a series of drawings of characters in long shot. They show nothing of the language of the camera and how the camera narrates a story. These examples of a storyboard were found on a website called Storyboard That, and again, they are not related to filmmaking storyboards. Here we're beginning to see what a storyboard needs to contain. There will need to be a variety of camera positions. Sometimes the camera may be close, at other times far away to show the whole scene. Occasionally we might see a high-angle shot, as in the last image here. We may also see a point of view, that is, the camera is in the position of a character in the story. Shot 5 here shows the camera in the position of the cat's head. This is called a point of view. So let's look at some good examples of a storyboard. Shot 4 shows a big close-up of this character, and underneath it says a moment of clarity. That's important. More sophisticated storyboards show all sorts of detail of movement, they are annotated, and they give the filmmaker a really good guide on what they are going to shoot. Let's now have a look at how to storyboard, and this, I believe, is the very best way to do it. First, you're going to need to find some A4 paper and draw 6 boxes. Then you're going to go to YouTube and find a film that you really like. But I suggest starting with Danny McCaskill's Imaginate. The reason I use this film is that there is only one line of dialogue. The whole story is told through images. And what you need to do is click on the pause button at each of these 6 points and draw what you see on the screen in each of the 6 boxes. Underneath, you can write about what you cannot draw, that is sound and movement. Movement of the actors and movement of the camera. You can also, in the corner of each box, write the duration of each shot. Once you have done that, you will have produced a storyboard something like this. We're not too worried about the drawing skills, but you will have drawn close-ups. You will have drawn a point of view. And maybe these are the first times that you have actually noticed these sorts of shots in a film and the particular sequence that they fall in to tell the story. And we can see that this example of a storyboard is quite different to the previous examples that we saw. So, let's just have a recap of some of the things that we've done. We have looked at why we use storyboards in filmmaking. We have also understood what a good storyboard is. We have undertaken an exercise to become a good storyboard creator. And in the process, we've learnt a little bit about the unconscious processes involved in drawing. And if you'd like to learn more, have a look at the next tutorial in the series. Hello and welcome to this Scottish European Educational Trust tutorial on storyboarding. Specifically, we'll be looking at storyboarding for filmmaking. In the previous tutorial, we learnt why we use storyboards, what a storyboard is, how to become a good storyboard creator, and we learnt a little about drawing. In this tutorial, we are going to continue using the same video, that is Danny McCaskill's Imaginate, which you can find on YouTube. And we are going to work with the same sequence of 6 still images: this title scene, this establishing shot, this extreme close-up, this point of view, another extreme close-up, and another point of view where the bicycle turns the somersault. In this tutorial, you will learn that a storyboard is basically a plan, and that the important part of any story is the emotional impact. You will also learn how filmmakers can plan emotional impact by considering carefully different camera shots, sequences, and camera placement at the storyboard stage. It's always a good idea to study a well-made film to understand the filmmaker's intentions. So here we have shot 1. It's the title, and the camera is positioned outside the room of a small child. In the background we hear 1980s music, which is rather muffled. We cut to shot 2. Now we are inside the room, but the view of the main subject is obscured by what appears to be the front wheel of a bicycle hanging from the ceiling of a boy's bedroom. Then we cut to shot 3, which is an extreme close-up of Danny's eyes. He is staring down intently at something. Shot 4 is actually a point of view, and shot 3 was the precursor to this. It raised a question: what is Danny looking at? Here we are shown in shot 4 what he is looking at. He's manipulating and building something with his toy blocks. In shot 5, we cut to an extreme close-up of his mouth. Here we just see a simple action. His tongue slips out of his mouth. It is a sign, a symbol of intense concentration and pleasure. Shot 6 is another point of view, and the young Danny picks up his toy bicycle and makes it perform a somersault. So the point of view shots put us, the audience, literally inside the head of Danny. A few shots later, we cut to a huge room, which is, in fact, the imagination of the young Danny, where the older Danny performs his incredible stunts. This short sequence only lasts a few seconds, but we can see how the filmmakers have used camera placement and framing to create emotional impact by drawing us into the young boy's head. We'll now move on to an exercise where you will learn how to storyboard to create emotional impact. So the first thing you need to do is create a very short story, or use the following suggestion. You will need to get some actors, or in this case some animated models, to perform the story, and you will need to observe carefully details of the performance. Then you'll have to think about where to place the camera and how to frame the shots so that you tell the story with emotional impact. And then you can create the storyboard. So here's the little simple story that we're going to create a storyboard for. Well, it starts out as a suspense film and ends up as a love story. But how are we going to storyboard it? We can create storyboards using drawings or photographs. For this exercise, we're going to use photographs. We saw in the previous tutorial how most storyboards in schools look like this, just a sequence of long shots with the camera far away and no cuts. So, how could we change this? How could we use different camera placements, different framings to really bring about some emotional impact? At this stage, you don't really need to worry about what the shot is called. You just need to place the camera, frame the shot, and think about why you are doing that. What do you want to show the audience? What do you want to tell them? And what sort of emotion do you want them to feel or see on the screen? So now you've got your story. Find yourself a phone or a camera, some Lego models, or if you're lucky, some actors. and work together to find out the best placement for the camera and the actors and the framing of the shot to really tell the emotional story that is in front of you. What can you show the audience to enable them to feel what the actors are feeling? The suspense, the trepidation, the relief, the enjoyment. So I hope you've enjoyed this filmmaking tutorial. If you're interested in more, please explore the SEET website.
So this is your template. Now your teacher should provide you with a number of these. You can also sketch them out yourselves if you want to do it in your own way. You saw in some of the examples that I gave you earlier that some people had kind of done it their own way. That's absolutely fine as well. But these are the templates, the kind of thing that we expect from you to produce. Remember, you can use as many of these as you need. So finally, we also ask you to hand in a brief video or audio clip which explains your film idea alongside your storyboard. So the clip can be as long or as short as you like. I'd like you to try and include everyone that's in your team in the clip if possible. But it can be filmed or recorded in any way you want. So, via mobile phone or one of the school iPads or computers, on a webcam or a voice clip on your phone. It's completely up to you. But the clip should give us a feel of your overall idea. So what's the genre? What's the basic storyline? How does it relate to your chosen SDG? Which language are you going to include, etc., etc. So we'd like that to come with the storyboard, please. So a brief video or audio clip explaining your idea. So once you have created your storyboards and you're happy with them, as well as put together a brief video or audio clip explaining your idea, please send them both the clip and your storyboard to me at SEET by Wednesday, the 8th of December, 2021. So you can send them to us on Google Drive to seat.our.world@gmail.com or through WeTransfer, which is a really easy way to send large files, completely free as well, to my email address, which is alex@seat.org.uk. If you've got any questions at all, or you just want to talk to me about our world or about your entry, please don't hesitate to contact me through our website, www.seat.org.uk, or via email on alex@seat.org.uk. You can also see regular project updates on our Twitter @seat_Scotland as well. A big thanks to all our partners whose support is vital for us to be able to run this project each year. So a big thanks to the Scottish Government, Screen Scotland, the EIS and Brodie's LLP as well.